Hello all, welcome to the Vinyasa practice. This is going to be a Mandala practice, which is a practice that takes you around the whole of the mat in different directions. So you will see all four corners, all four edges. We start facing the front, we take you around to the left, and then we take you to the back edge of the mat. Then we take you again around to the left, back to the front of the mat, and then take you back in the opposite direction. A really fun practice, but you will have to really listen to my instruction when you're not actually facing the camera. So the reason why we do a mandala practice is just to give you a different proprioception of where you are in space. It just makes you switch the mind on a little bit to help listen to where you should be at what time. So with this practice, we work very much with the natural elements and how those natural elements work with the body. So we really think about the grounding and stability through the earth chakra. We think about the water chakra, which tends to be about fluidity. The fire, which is about creativity and feeling alive and energetic. The air element, which is about our breath and our lung expansion. And the space element, which is about clearing the mind, freeing the thoughts, but anchoring into the present moment. So it's a really lovely practice. I will bring these things up as we move, but just enjoy, and let's get into child's pose. So coming big toes to the end of the mat, back of the mat, slowly and softly bring those sit bones back towards the heels or somewhere close. Just depending on how open you are in the hips, how those lower back feels. And as you've brought the heels down, start to walk the hands forward. Slowly bringing those chests towards the floor, foreheads towards the mat. And when you get to this space of child's pose, whatever that looks like for you, that may be that the hips are still quite high. It may be that the bums are already touching the heels. It might be that you want to have the arms out long in front of you, or maybe a bend in the elbows if those shoulders are feeling a little tight. Depending on what time of day you're doing this practice, depends on how your body is moving at that time. The earlier you do the practice in the day, maybe the later on in the day, the body's already moved a little, so maybe those bodies feel a little bit more comfortable with stretch. In this position, take a nice long deep breath in and a long breath out. Have a think about those places that are touching the floor. Maybe the palms of the hands, maybe the forearms and elbows. Maybe the elbows and the forearms aren't touching at all if you're reaching forward with the fingertips. That forehead's maybe touching the mat. Tops of the feet and the tops of the toes, maybe the tops of the ankles. Maybe the shins have come quite close to the floor, or maybe they're high away. Those knees will be touching the mat. And just think about that stability and that grounding into the earth as we just hold it here for a few moments, taking a scan from the fingertips down to the toe tips. Just have a check-in with how your body feels. Maybe closing the eyes. Then when you've taken a scan of the body, checking in with how it feels, start to bring the attention to the breath. Thinking of that air element. As you breathe in, those lungs expand. You create some space between those rib cages to allow those lungs to get bigger on the inhale. And then on the exhale, just feel that air coming back out of either the nose or the mouth. Drawing the ribs back close together, squeezing those lungs to release that air. Maybe the next breath in, you maybe take it a little more into the belly. So expanding that belly on the inhale, letting it drop between the thighs. And on the exhale, squeezing that belly back, using that abdominal contraction. And just have a thought of that element of fire. As you draw that belly back, that abdominal contraction creates a little bit of heat around that solar plexus space. And then taking notice of any thoughts that come into the head. That space element
trying to clear that space to bring us into that present moment. Use the anchor of the breath to maybe bring those thoughts into a calmer space, noticing as they come into the mind, but trying to use that breath anchor to let go of those thoughts without any judgment, without any feelings, just allowing that whole body to rest over those thighs. The next breath in, walk the hands over to your right side of the mat, stretching that left side of the body, trying to keep that left sit bone back towards that left heel, sinking that chest to the inside of that right thigh. Then walk the hands back through center, take the hands over to that left side of the mat, bring your right hand on top of your left, nudge that right sit bone back to that right heel, and just notice how it feels with the stretch on this right side compared to the left, breathing that breath into that right rib cage. Then bring the hands back to the center, take a breath out in neutral spine. Then make your way up onto your hands and knees, shoulders over the heel of the hands, knees underneath the hips, tops of the feet flat. Do a little bit of spinal articulation here with cat-cow. Breath in, lifts up the head, lifts up the tailbone, drops the belly. Breath out, we fold everything back in, chin to chest, tailbone tucks. Then again, take that extension of the front side of the body, feeling the stretch of the skin over those bones, and then take it into the opposite direction, feeling now the stretch of the back of the body and the contraction of the front. Keep moving in and out of those two places. Maybe closing the eyes, having a think about how that spine is moving. Does it move nice and fluid? Or does it feel like it's getting a little tight in spaces? Maybe you're putting all that pressure into that lower part of the back when you take that back into a bend. Try and take it a little more into that upper part of the spine if you can. And then notice how you fold, how the shoulders feel, how the neck feels. Just being fully aware of that movement of the body. The next time you come back through tabletop position, hold it in tabletop. Let's take a little rotation of the spine. Take the right hand up to the ceiling, then thread the right hand in between the left hand, left knee. We're not staying, we're just moving in and out 3 times. Breath in, raise the right hand, turn and twist to the right. As you breathe out, thread that hand in between the left hand and left knee. One more time, raise that right hand up to the ceiling, and then thread that right hand in between the left hand, left knee. Then bring it back to meet that left hand on the mat. Take it in the opposite direction. Breath in, raise the left hand. Breath out, thread that left hand between the right hand, right knee. 2 more times. Lift, open the chest to the left. Thread, turn the chest to the right. Lift, open that chest up. Feel the expansion in that space where the lungs are. And then thread. Then bring that left hand back to meet the right. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. Then take the toes over to the left side of the mat. Push the hips over to the right. Turn and gaze to the left side. Looking back at those right toe tips. Taking that lateral flexion through the waist. Just holding it in a stretch for a breath. Then bring those shoulders back forward. Bring that right knee back to meet the left. Take the left toes back, then over to the right side of the mat. Push the hips over to the left. Gaze back towards, this time, those left toes on that right side of the mat. Stretching down that left side of the waist. Bring that body back into that neutral tabletop position. Step both feet back into a plank position. Find that alignment of plank. Remember, the shoulders can either be over the heel of the hands, or if that's too much pressure on the wrist, just slightly behind.
And then as you paddle the feet, start to lift up the hips to our first downward facing dog of the day. Take a little nod and a shake of the head, making sure the hands are shoulder width apart, the feet are hip width apart, moving in and out with those heels towards the mat one at a time, making those hamstrings aware they're going to go through some posterior chain stretches, but also some strengthening. Then when you're ready, or if you're ready, bring those heels towards the floor, bringing your downward facing dog to a still position. Create some space between the shoulders, shoulder blades pushing up towards the hips. The head in line with the spine, slightly relaxed but also strong. Long, easy breath in through the nose. Long breath out through the mouth. Then if you're happy to bring that breath in and out through the nose, unless you're holding colds or allergies. We're going to take 3 vinyasas, coming forward to plank. On the inhale, I'm taking option 1. Let the knees drop to the floor, turn the creases of the elbows, graze the ribs, release down on your exhale. Untuck the toes, push into the hands and lift up the chest. Then release that chest down, tuck under those toes, bring those chests back towards those thighs. Push into the hands and feet, lift up the hips as you squeeze the heels back. Stick with option 1 or come with me option 2. Come forward to a plank on the inhale. Release with a straight body, keeping the centre of the body nice and strong. Elbows graze the ribs, touch the floor, untuck the toes, lift up the chest, maybe come a little higher. Release the chest down, tuck under the toes, bring the chest back towards those thighs. Push into those hands and feet as you lift up those hips without fussing the feet. Squeeze the heels back. If you're taking option 3, coming with me, come forward to plank on the inhale. Turn the creases of the elbows, come to hover off the mat, elbows in line with the ribs. Then roll over the toes, lift up the chest, thighs stay away. And then making your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Maybe have a nod and a shake of the head, a squeeze of the heels, maybe a little closer towards that floor. Just having a nice check-in to see whether those shoulders are relaxed, the arms are shoulder width apart. Pushing into that index finger, thumb, little finger. One long breath in. And a long breath out. So we're going to take another vinyasa. I'm giving you a 4th option of vinyasa, which you can take at any time through the practice if you wish. So if you want to take 1, 2 or 3, go ahead. If you're coming with me, we take a bend in the knees, a bend in the elbows, and we slither through like a snake to our hovering chaturanga. Then we lift up the chest, squeeze the shoulders back, and then bring those hips up back to our downward facing dog. Coming down onto the knees, separate the knees, big toes together, sit bones to the heels. Just take a moment in child's pose, or if you choose to take some water, making sure you stay rehydrated if you need to. Just checking in with everything as we've just moved those bodies a little through those vinyasas. Notice shoulders, notice hips. One more breath in this space before we start our mandala flow. So remembering just to listen to which leg I tell you to lift. It will get you in the right direction that we're meaning to go. Constantly listening to all instructions so we can get that flow moving around that mat. Making your way into downward facing dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. Take a breath in and raise up with the right leg. Take a bend into the knee, a turn of the hips towards the right side of the room. Then realign the hips, bring the knee into the chest. Gaze in between the hands as you step that right foot through. Help it through if you need to. Drop the back knee, uncurl the toes, just hold it in lunge for a breath. Keeping that left hand down on the floor. Lift the left foot away from the mat. Right hand comes behind. If you can reach that right foot, take a hold of that foot. can reach that left foot, take a hold of that left foot and turn and twist to the right side of the mat. Squeezing that left foot in towards the bum, pushing into that left hand to stabilize, pushing into that right foot to stabilize, getting a stretch down the front side of that left thigh. Hold it here just for one more breath. Then release that left foot back to the mat, right hand back to the front of the mat. Walk the hands back towards that left knee, right foot back towards the right shin. Keep the hips nice and neutral to the front of the mat and into the center of the mat. Keep squeezing those right toes back. Take a breath in, elongate the spine, then maybe as you breathe out, maybe find a fold over that right leg. Feeling that stretch down that hamstring of that right side. Then walk the hands back towards the front of the mat, turn the toes, come onto the toes of that right foot, and then turn the left toes up to the ceiling to find that stretch on the inner groin and the hamstring of that left leg. If you wish to find a balance here, bring the hands away from the floor, push into those palms, holding it for a couple of breaths, or keep those hands down if you wish. So we're holding it on this right side, right knee bent towards the front of the mat, left leg straight. One more breath here. Then release the hands down, walk yourself over towards the back of the mat, come onto the toes of the left foot, lifting the right toes up, coming onto that right heel. This time the right leg straight, left knee's bent. If you want to find that balance, bring the hands to the chest. Lift up through those shoulders, stretching through the inside of the right groin now. We're holding just for another couple of breaths, really challenging that balance if the hands are away. Then release the hands down either side of that left foot. Turn around to a lunge position. Drop that back knee. So we're now facing the back of the mat, untuck the right toes. Put your hand of the right hand to the floor, lift your right foot away from the mat. Left hand goes around to grab a hold of that right foot if you can reach, or just squeeze that right foot into the bum. Turn the shoulders to the left side. So remembering we're facing now the back of the room if you're having the camera at that front edge of the mat. Squeeze that right foot as close as you can towards the bum, either with the left hand or just squeeze it in if that left hand doesn't reach. Twist those shoulders. One more breath here, getting into that thigh muscle on that right side. Then release that right foot down, left hand comes back to the mat. Walk the hands back towards that right knee. Your left toes back towards that left shin. And find that space, hips in the center of the mat, left toes back towards those shins. One more breath. Then walk those hands back towards that left foot, tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee, raise that left leg up towards the ceiling, bend the knee, stack up the hip, realign the hip, left foot down to meet the right. Take a little paddle of the feet. Then your choice of vinyasa to that back edge of the mat. Come forward to plank on the inhale. Either drop down the knees or straight bodies or hover. Roll through up and lift up those chests. Making your way back to down dog, either chest to thighs or rolling straight over those toes, lifting those hips and squeezing those heels back. So we're going to be lifting that right leg again. So on your breath in, raise up the right leg, bend the right knee, stack up the hips. Then realign those hips, bring the knee to the chest. Take a gaze in between the hands as you step your right foot through. So lifting that bottom knee, keeping it away from the floor. Raise the arms up towards the ceiling into a high lunge position. Try not to flare those ribs. Then take a hold of the left wrist with the right hand and lateral flex over to the right side. So the arms are going over to the right side of the room. And you feel that stretch down that left hip, down the left side of the rib cage, contraction down the right side. Still keeping the right knee bent, the left leg straight, pushing that left heel towards that front edge of the mat. Holding it in lateral flexion, high lunge just for one more breath. Then straighten up through the body, bring the hands to the chest. Your left elbow comes over that right knee and we rotate the body, turning our chest to the right side of the mat. Left leg is still straight, right knee is still bent. Holding here for a couple of more breaths. Taking that digestive squeeze of that solar plexus, those internal organs. Then release the hands down either side of the right foot. Turn the body towards the left side of the mat. Bend your right knee. Turn the left toes up to the ceiling, finding that inner groin stretch again to the back edge of the mat. Lifting up through the chest, coming into that balance again if you wish, bringing the hands to the center of the chest. Long breath in, try and maybe lift that torso a little more away from that right thigh if you can. Then from this position, maybe you want to not bring the hands to the floor, you just walk yourself over towards bending into that left knee, turning those right toes up. Maybe keeping a lift up through that chest to stretch through the inside of that right thigh. You may have walked the hands across or just taking yourself across nice and slowly without using the hands. Then bring the hands to the floor, turn around back to the front edge of the mat into a high lunge position. Raise the arms up towards the ceiling. Reach up with the fingertips, sink into the hips, push your right heel back, left knee's bent. Then take a hold of your right wrist with your left hand, lean over to your left side, stretching the waist on that right side, relaxing the shoulders, lengthening up those arms. Lateral flexion, try not to flare the ribs too much. Keep yourself nice and balanced and stable and pushing into that earth element. Then bring those shoulders back to stack over. Bring the hands to the chest. Your right elbow over the left knee. Rotate and twist the body to the left side. Right heel pushes back. Left knee stays bent. Your elongation comes on the inhale through that spine. And the twist comes from the exhale. Working that digestive system space. Feel that stability. Feel that fire in the belly, starting to warm that body up. Then release the hands down either side of the left foot. We should be facing back at the front of the mat. Lift that left leg up to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack up of the hips, realign the hips, left foot back to meet the right. Coming back to our downward facing dog, taking a breath here, nod and shake the head. A vinyasa of your choice. I'm taking option 3, coming forward to plank on the inhale, releasing down to a hover on the exhale, rolling over the toes, lifting up the chest on the inhale, my thighs are staying away. Making your way back to downward facing dog, squeezing those heels back. Maybe nodding and shaking those hips. So this time we're going to raise up with your left leg. So on your breath in, lift the left leg up towards the ceiling. Bend the knees, stack up the hips. Then realign the hips, bring the left knee into the chest. Gaze in between the hands as we step that left foot through. Stay off the back knee, keep the hips low. Raise the arms up towards the ceiling to find your high lunge again. Reaching up through the fingers, try not to flare those ribs. Try and keep those hips and ribs tethered. Keep that core strength. Take a little bend in the back knee, tuck the tailbone under, then straighten that back leg out. If you wish to challenge the balance, gaze up towards the hands. So you should be left foot forward, right foot back. Then bring the hands down behind the bum. Take an interlace of the fingers. Push the hands down towards that right leg. Just heel toe that left foot out to the side slightly. Then as you breathe out, come into humble warrior. Left shoulder towards that left knee. And then if you're happy to raise those hands up above the head, bringing them away from the spine, or keeping them on the lower back if that feels more comfortable. Working into those shoulder sockets, sinking that left shoulder as close towards that left knee as you can, and then just let go of the head. Let that crown point down towards the floor. So we're on the toes of the back foot, back leg straight, and we're pushing into the whole of the left foot, bending into that left knee. Then bring those hands back to the lower spine, lift up the chest, turn towards that right side of the mat, heels point inwards, toes point out. Raise those hands up towards the ceiling, 5-pointed star, holding that stretch through the arms, that widening of the legs. And then bring those hands back down, turn towards the back of the mat, come onto the toes of the left foot, bend into that right knee. Raise the arms again back up towards the ceiling to find that high lunge space. Tether the ribs and the hips, take a little bend into that left knee, tuck the tailbone down, and then straighten that back leg back out. Maybe gaze up to those hands. So we should be facing the back of the mat now, with that right leg forward, left leg back. Holding here for another breath. Then bring those hands back down behind the back. Interlace the fingers, push the hands down that left leg. Heel toe the right foot out to the side a little. And then bring that right shoulder towards that right knee. Lifting the arms away from the spine if you wish. Trying to keep that left hip pushing forward, the right hip pushing back. Then relax the head. Let the crown of the head point down towards the floor. Arms either lifted or lowered. One more breath here. Then release those hands down, either side of that right foot. Lift the right leg back up to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack up the hips. Realign the hips, right foot down to meet the left. Take a little paddle through the feet and a nod and shake of those heads. Vinyasa of your choice. Come forward to plank on the inhale. Release down to the floor on the exhale or hover. Roll through and up and lift up those chests. Release back down or roll straight over those toes. Or making a way back to down dog facing the back of the mat. Paddle through those feet, nod and shake through those heads. Then bring those heels to stillness, encouraging them down towards the mat. Your next breath in, we lift the left leg again up towards the ceiling. Bend the knees, stack up of those hips. Realign those hips, bring the left knee into the chest. Take a gaze in between the hands as you step that left foot through. So we're staying off the knee on that back leg. We reach the arms forward towards the ears and then just come up to a 45-degree angle. So we're leaning over that left thigh. Shoulders are almost stacking over that left knee. Reaching up with the hands, pushing back into that right toes, pushing into that left foot. Holding this pose. Feeling the weight more in that left leg, but sending some energy into those right toes. Use that breath, elongate on the inhale, ground on the exhale. Bring the hands to the chest, right elbow, left knee, twist around to that left side of the mat, keeping that right leg still nice and straight. Then send the left hand to the ceiling, right hand down to the floor, open up that chest, or keep those palms together if you wish. One more breath here. Bring the hands back together. Turn and face the right side of the mat. This time heels out, toes in, hands on the hips. Take a breath in, roll the shoulders to the ears, back down towards the hips, and then start to fold on your exhale to a half fold. Reach the arms out wide. Take that gaze down towards the mat. Nice long line with the back, almost like a tabletop back. Pushing into the outsides of those feet. Trying to feel those muscles in the back holding this pose. One more breath in this position. Then lift the shoulders back over the hips. Turn back around to the front of the mat. Reach the arms up to the ceiling, then take it to that 45-degree angle of lunge. Push energetically this time into those left toes, into the whole of that right foot, right knees bent, left leg straight. Head in line with the spine leaning at that 45-degree angle. Then bring those hands to the chest. Your left elbow onto your right knee. Rotate around to that right side. Then open the arms up, left hand down, right hand lifts. Twist that waist a little more. Pushing that left foot back. Right shoulder stacking on top of the left. Bring those hands back together. Bring them either side of that right foot. Lift that right leg to the ceiling. Bend the knees, stack up the hips. Realign the hips, right foot back to meet the left. Vinyasa of your choice. I'm taking that new option of 4. Bending the knees, bending the elbows, rolling through as a snake to our chaturanga. Lifting the chest, pushing into the tops of the feet. Making our way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. Coming down onto your knees, maybe take a moment in child's pose or take on some water, whichever is right for you at this time. Bring those 4 heads down. If you're in child's pose, maybe have a little rock of those hips from side to side. Maybe give those shoulders a rest, bringing the hands down by the sides of the body. Easy breaths, noticing the warmth, that fire element, starting to bring some heat into that body. Notice how that space has been created in the mind, bringing us into the present moment, knowing listening to instruction keeps us in the here and now. Our breaths are maybe coming a little bit quicker, maybe you're finding a long breath, whatever those breaths are doing, just making sure you breathe throughout the whole of the practice and not hold the breath. One more breath here in child's pose before we take another flow around to that left side. Come back into your downward facing dog position. Maybe coming through plank first, find that good alignment, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. So your next breath in, the right leg raises up to the ceiling. We bend up that knee, we stack up those hips, turn the hips to the right side, left heel down to the floor. Realign the hips, right knee to the chest, take a gaze in between the hands as you step that right foot through. Drop that left heel, bring your right hand to the inside of that right foot, then left hand onto the shoulder, turn the shoulders to the left, then reach that left hand up to the ceiling, then reach that left hand forward towards the front of the mat. So you may be up on your fingertips here, you may be down on the palm of that right hand. Try and keep that head in line with the spine.
Feeling that stretch from the fingertips of the left hand down to the outside of that left foot. Holding here just for one more breath. Then we're going to take it a little stronger. If you don't wish to do this, stay here for another couple of breaths. Reaching up with that right hand. So we've got that 45-degree angle of the waist now. So the right hand and the left hand are away. If that doesn't feel right, bring that right forearm onto that right thigh. If you want to work some strength into that waist, lengthen those levers. One more breath here. Then bring those shoulders over the hips. Turn both sets of toes slightly inwardly, heels slightly out. Roll the shoulders up towards the ears, back down towards the hips. Breathe in, breathe out, and fold to a half fold. Next breath in, elongate that spine on the inhale. As you breathe out, bring those hands to the floor. Foreheads towards the mat. They don't need to reach. Just bringing yourself into your range of movement. If you need to bend the knees, slightly bend the knees. Find a little softness through that pose. Your next breath in, come up to a half lift. Bring your hands back onto the hips, breathe out. Next breath in, bring yourself all the way back up to standing, shoulders over the hips. Turn your left toes to the back of the mat. Bend into that left knee. Bring that left hand either to the inside of that left foot or onto the fingertips. Reach that right hand, turn the shoulder. Send it up to the ceiling. Then reach that right hand towards the back of the mat, holding it in that side angle stretch. Left knee's bent, right leg straight. And then if you want to come with that stronger practice, bringing some fire into the belly, lift up through the torso, bring it to 45 degrees, lift up the left hand, and reach out to that left side, or bring that left forearm onto the top of the left thigh. But try and keep that chest turning out to the side. Reaching longer with the limbs creates a little more of a challenge. The longer the limbs, the more you have to use muscles to hold it. Push into the outside of the right foot, the whole of the left foot. Holding it just for one more breath here. Feel that energy within that body. And then bring the hands down either side of the left foot, facing the back of the mat. Raise the left leg up to the ceiling. Bend up the knees, stack up the hips. Realign the hips. Left foot down to meet the right. Take a paddle through the feet. Take a vinyasa of your choice. I'm taking chaturanga, option 3, coming forward to plank. Turning the creases of the elbows, releasing to a hover, elbows in line with the body. Roll over the toes. Lift up the chest, making your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back, all facing the back of the mat. So right leg again, raise that right leg up towards the ceiling. Take a bend in the knee, turn of the hip to the right side. Realign those hips, bring the knee to the chest. Take a gaze in between the hands as you step your right foot through. Drop that back heel. Windmill the left arm up and over to find warrior 2, facing the back of the mat. Bend in to your right knee. Push into the outside of that left foot. Shoulders over the hips. Both hips and shoulders facing the left side. Bum tucked under. Belly drawn back, ribs and hips engaged. Turn the palms to the ceiling, let the shoulders relax. Turn the palms back, leaving the shoulders where they are. Holding for another couple of breaths in warrior 2. Gazing towards those right fingertips to the back of your room. Then turn the right palm, reach forward. Take it to reverse warrior. Left hand goes down either the back of the left leg or finds a bind onto that right thigh. And breathe that breath into that rib cage on that right side.
Still bending into that right knee. Left leg straight, pushing into the outside edge of that left foot. Then bring those shoulders back over the hips, arms back out wide. Turn both sets of toes to the long edge. Hands come onto the hips, roll the shoulders. As you breathe out, come to a half fold. Bring the hands to the floor. Left hand in the center, right hand to the shoulder. Turn and twist to the right. Raise the right hand to the ceiling. Gaze up towards that right thumb if that neck feels happy. And try and keep those hips nice and neutral in the center. Try not to drop into that left side. Then bring the right hand back down to where the left hand is. Bring the left hand onto the shoulder. Turn the shoulders first. Then raise that left hand to the ceiling. Push strong and energetically into that floor. That earth element, that grounding, that stability. That twist of the waist, that fire element. Then bring that left hand back to meet the right. Allow the body to fold over the legs. Next breath in, come up to a half lift. Place the hands on the hips, breathe out. Breathe in, bring yourself all the way back up. Turn your left toes back to the front of the mat. Find warrior two. Hips coming low. Left knee bent, right leg straight. Gazing towards those left fingertips. Turn both sets of palms up. Relax the shoulders. Turn them back. Shoulders stay relaxed. Think about that crown being stacked on top of that energy channel of the spine. The center of the feet is where the spine is stacked. Then turn that left palm, reach forward, take it to a reverse warrior, gazing up to the left palm. Right hand either down the right leg or find that bind onto that left thigh. Still staying low with the hips, breathing into that left rib cage. Trying not to make that lower back arch too much. Try and find that expansion on that left side. Your next breath out, windmill the hands down, either side of the left foot, coming back to the front of the mat. Raise the left leg to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack up the hips. Realign the hips, left foot down to meet the right. Take a vinyasa of your choice. I'm taking that option 4, bending my knees, bending my elbows, slithering through like that snake, rolling over the toes, lifting up the chest, making our way back to downward facing dog. Have a little nod and a shake of the head. So we've taken it around to the left, so we need to go back around to the right to unwind our mind, our body. The next breath in, raise that left leg. Bend up that knee, stack up that hip. Realign the hips, bring the left knee to the chest. Take a gaze in between the hands as you step your left foot through. Drop your back heel. Bring the shoulders over the hips, straighten that left leg. Turn the shoulders and hips to the right. Arms come out shoulder height. Reach forward with the left hand, bring it to the inside of that left leg. Right hand lifts to find triangle pose. Reaching up with the right hand as much as you can. Down with the left hand. Try and tuck that left bum cheek under and turn that right hip out. Both legs straight. Try not to hyperextend that left leg. Slightly micro bend it. Switch on those muscles in the top of that left thigh. One more breath here in triangle, right shoulder stacking over the left. Then use those oblique muscles to lift the shoulders. Then send the left hand to the ceiling. Right hand down the back of the right leg to reverse that triangle space. Lengthening through that left side of the body, contracting through the waist on the right, but try not to dump into that lower back. Bring those shoulders then back over those hips. Turn both sets of toes. So the toes are pointing out, the heels are pointing in. Palms come together at the chest. Take a squat down with the hips. Try not to arch the lower back. Tuck that tailbone down and under. Push nice and strong into both feet. Trying to bring those hips almost in line with those knees. Shoulders stay over the hips. One more breath here in this space. Then straighten up back through the legs. This time turn your right toes to the back edge. Reach out with the arms, left toes facing the long edge. Reach out with the right hand, bring it to the inside of the right leg. Left hand lifts, triangle pose to the opposite side. So try not to collapse in that right side waist. Try and create length through the torso, crown of the head in line with the rest of the spine. Maybe the gaze up to that left thumb. Try not to lock out that right knee. Then bring those shoulders back over the hips, switch on those muscles in the side of the waist. Reverse that triangle. Right hand lifts, left hand goes down the back of the left leg. Both legs stay nice and straight. Reaching as much as you can through that top right arm. Then bring those shoulders again back over those hips. Bend that right knee, windmill the hands down either side of that right foot, facing the back of the mat. Raise the right leg to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack up the hips. Realign the hips, right foot back to meet the left. Take a choice of vinyasa of yours, coming forward to plank. I'm taking it back to option 1, dropping my knees. Elbows come in by the sides of the body, release the chest to the floor. Lift up the chest on the inhale and take it back to down dog on your exhale. Lifting those hips and squeezing those heels back. So moving and lifting again with that left leg. Raise that left leg up towards the ceiling. Bend up the knees, stack up of those hips. Realign the hips. Thread that left foot underneath the right side of the body, taking it to falling triangles. So the left foot comes to the right side of the mat. If you wish, put the weight into the left hand, raise the right hand to the ceiling. Maybe lift that left foot away from the floor. The right heel is grounded at the back of the mat. Then release that left foot back down. Bring the left hip to the mat, both bum cheeks to the floor. Reach up with the arms facing that left leg and then start to fold over that left leg, bringing the chest down. That may be here for you, it may be lower, but try not to roll that spine. Push the chest forward, create that space for that air to come into the body. And then just allow that body to fold over that left leg. Think about how your body feels. Treat it with compassion. Treat it with care. Then walk the hands over to that right leg. Take a breath in, elongate the spine. As you breathe out, fold over that right leg. Find that space, elongating on the inhale, that element of space in the body. And on the exhale, fold back over that right leg. Then walk the hands back up the leg. Bring your right hand behind. Push into the heels. Lift the hips. Send that left hand to the back edge of the mat. Lifting the hips as high as you can take them. Supporting yourself with that right hand. Then bring that bum back down. Walk the hands back around to the back of the mat. Come onto the toes of the right foot. Lift the left leg to the ceiling. Bring it back into the chest. Step the left foot through to the back of the mat. Walk around to the center of the mat. Toes facing the long edge. Breathe in, elongate. Breathe out and fold. Have a nod and shake of those heads. Easy breath in, easy breath out. Next breath in, come up to a half lift. Walk the hands back around towards that right foot, so facing the front edge of the mat. Raise that right leg to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack up the hips. Realign the hips, thread that right foot underneath that left side of the body. Fallen triangle. Raising up that left hand, turning and twisting the waist, turning the shoulders. Weight into the right hand, left hand lift if you wish. Then slowly let that right hip come to the floor, both bum cheeks to the mat. Widen the legs, raise up the arms, shoulders towards the right leg and fold over that leg. Breathe in, lengthen, breathe out and fold. Then walk the hands around to that left foot, shoulders facing towards that leg. Breathe in, elongate, breathe out, fold. Try and keep that right sit bone grounded, that left sit bone grounded. Feel that stretch down the side of the waist on the right into that right side back. Then walk the hands back up. Your left hand comes behind. Push into both heels. Lift the hips, right hand stretches to the back of the room to take it into that version of Wild Thing. One more breath here, lifting the hips as high as they can go. Then release those bums back to the mat. Bring the hands back around to the front of the mat. Come onto the toes of the back foot. Right leg then comes back through, up to the ceiling, stack up the hips. Right foot back to meet the left. Take a paddle through the feet. Take a vinyasa of your choice. Come forward to plank. On the inhale, release down, either to the floor or hover on the exhale. I'm option 2. Lift up the chest. Make your way back to down dog, either rolling over the toes or chest to thighs. Lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Just coming down onto the knees for a moment, just to take a couple of breaths before we take our standing balances around that mat. So we're really going to challenge the balances here. We're going to go around to the left side first and then back around to the right side. So we're doing a fair few standing balances, just not holding them for too long. So when you're ready, making your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Weight into your left foot as you raise the right leg to the ceiling, bend up the knees, stack up the hips, realign the hips, bring the knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands as you step that right foot through. Hop onto that right leg, lift that left leg up to hip height. Then gravity will be pushing against you here to bring yourself to warrior 2. So bring the hands to the chest, then raise that chest away from the floor, finding that warrior 2 place. Holding just for a couple of breaths here. Trying to get nice and long from the crown of the head to that left heel. Then bend into that right knee, let the left toes come back to the mat, turn towards that left side, toes out, heels in, bend into the knees to that sumo squat place. Bums tucked under, shoulders over the hips, take it as low as you can go, squeezing those knees out to the side. Then straighten up through those legs. Turn to face the back of the mat. Bring the hands to the floor first of all. Hop onto that left foot, raise that right leg to hip height. Bring the palms back together and lift that chest. Finding warrior 3. Right hip in line with the left. Try not to let that right hip come too high. Holding it in this space. Maybe if you wish to straighten the arms, sending them forward. The longer the limbs, the harder the pose. Then let those hands come back down to the mat. Bend that left knee, step your right foot back to the floor. Ground the hands, lift the left leg.
Bend the knees, stack at the hips. Then realign the hips, left foot back to meet the right. Take a paddle of the feet. Vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank on your inhale. Release down to the floor or hover. I'm taking option 3. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. All finding a way back to down dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. Next breath in with the right leg again, raise it up to the ceiling, bend that knee, stack up those hips. Realign those hips, bring the right knee into the chest. Take a gaze in between the hands as you step your right foot through. Bring your hands onto your hips, shoulders then over the hips. Step forward onto your right foot as you bring your left knee through up to hip height. Either keep the knee bent and lifted or straighten that left leg out to find staff pose. Standing staff, strengthening through that hip flexor of that left leg. Rolling the shoulders back. Lifting up through the chest as much as you can. One more breath here. Bend back into the knee. Step the left foot back. Turn. Whoops. Heels in, toes out. Come to that sumo squat. Palms come together. Lowering as much as you can go with the hips without that bum pushing out. We need it tucked under. Lower a little further if you can. Holding for another breath. Then straighten back up through the legs, turn to the front edge. Step forward onto your left foot, right knee lifts. Hands either come onto the hips, or this time if you wish, straighten that right leg, straighten the arms to the ceiling. Hold it in that staff pose for a couple of more breaths. Right hip flexor getting the work here, the strength work. Left leg finding that root and grounding into the floor. Then bring the hands back. Right foot to the back of the mat. Hands to the floor. Raise that left leg. Bend that knee, stack up that hip. Realign the hip, left foot to meet the right. Vinyasa of your choice. I'm going to option 4, bend the knees, bend the elbows, scoop through. Roll up, lift up the chest. Make your way back to down dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. So we have one more flow back to the right side. Then we'll come to the floor to have a little chill. Breath in, left leg, lift it to the ceiling, bend up the knees, stack at the hip. Realign the hip, left knee into the chest. Gaze in between the hands as you step that left foot through. Hands come to the hips, lift up the shoulders. Step forward onto your left foot, bring your right knee up to hip height. Turn the knee out, outside of the right ankle onto the top of the left thigh. Bend into that left leg. Toes of the right foot back to the shin to protect the knee. Bring the hands to the chest. Find that figure 4 balance. Feel that stability. Notice that blood rushing through the system with that water element, that fluid element, the heat of the body from the fire of the belly, the breathing, that air element, and knowing you have to be present through the whole of the practice to find those places we need you to go. Straightening up through that left leg, bring your right knee back to a bend. Slowly release that right foot to the back of the mat. Turn to that long edge, toes out, heels in, sumo squat. Bring the arms out to cactus arms. Take a breath in. Breath out, bring the arms together, forearms squeeze. Breath in, open up, lift up that chest. Breath out, squeeze those forearms together.
Bring the hands back to the hips, straighten up through those legs. Turn to the back of the mat. Step forward onto your right leg, left knee lifts. Turn the left knee out, figure 4 on that back edge of the mat. Bend into the right knee. Hands come together at the chest, left toes back to the shins. Stabilizing, grounding into that right foot. Then straightening up through that right leg, left knee back to hip height. Nice and controlled. Send the left foot to the back of the mat. Bend your right knee. Hands down to the floor. Right leg lifts. Bend knees, stack up the hips. Realign the hip. Right foot back to meet the left. Flow your choice of vinyasa. I'm taking option 1. Dropping the knees. Elbows graze those ribs, roll through, up, lift up the chest, connecting that air element with that breath. Or making our way back to down dog to take that last transition around back to the front of the mat, doing half moon here. Breath in, raise the left leg, bend the knees, stack up the hip. Realign the hip, left knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands, step the left foot through. Bring your left fingertips just in front of the left toes. Step forward onto that left foot, raise the right leg. Right hand onto the shoulder, turn the hip out to that long edge of the mat. When you've found that place, maybe bring your right hand to the ceiling. Maybe come up a little more onto those fingertips, maybe hover that left hand. The gaze can either be down to the floor or out to the side or up towards that top hand. One more breath in half moon pose. Then bend that left knee, drop that right foot, find warrior 2, facing the back of the mat. Then straighten that left leg, find warrior 2 to the front of the mat, right toes facing forward. Then bring that right hand down, bring it to just in front of those right toes. Hop onto that right leg, lifting that left leg up to hip height. Shoulders and hips facing that left side of the mat. Maybe hover those fingertips away from the floor. Left toes to the shins, push that left heel away. Gaze can be wherever feels most comfortable for you. The higher you take the gaze, the more it challenges that balance. And then bend that right knee, bring that left foot back to the floor. Just find warrior 2 for a breath. Then windmill the hands down, either side of that right foot. Raise that right leg for the last time. Bend the knees, stack the hip. Realign the hip, right foot back to meet the left. Take a vinyasa, the last vinyasa, your choice. I'm taking option 4, bending knees, bending elbows, scooping my way through, lifting the chest. Back to down dog. Come down to the knees, sit bones to the heels, hands down by the sides of the body, forehead to the mat. Find that stability, that restoration of child's pose. Calming the whole body back down. That blood is being pumped through the body at some speed. Try and let that heart rate come down a little further. Cooling the body back down for relaxation. Calming that air element of breath. Keeping that mind present
relaxed and restored. Space for that intuition and wisdom to come through. Knowing that the 5 elements of nature are totally within our own bodies. Yoga and unity, everything unified within this world. Slowly make your way onto your backs.
Feet coming forward, bums into the centre. Bring the knees together, arms out to a T shape. Just let those knees go over to the right side, the gaze over to the left. Then if you wish to bring the knees a little closer into the chest, maybe the right hand onto the top of the left knee. Maybe gaze towards that left hand, just to find that nice relaxing twist. If you've lifted them, bring them back to the centre. Take the knees gently over to the left side. Gaze to the right hand. Maybe bring those knees a little closer into the chest. Maybe that left hand on the top of the right knee. Long breaths in, long breaths out. Bring those knees back into the centre. Keeping the feet together. Bring the hands to the hips. Let the knees drop out to the side into our bound angle, supine Baddha Konasana. Close the eyes. Maybe just have a little rock of those knees from side to side. Just getting a little massage into that lower part of the spine. Take a scan through the body, noticing how it feels now to the beginning of class. Noticing the benefits of the practice. Either staying here with the knees out wide or straightening the legs to the edge of the mat. Maybe lifting the bums, tucking the tailbones closer to the front edge. Relaxing through the shoulders and the hips. Take a nice long deep breath in. Long sigh out through the mouth. Let the tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth. The lips gently part. Soften the eyelids over the eyes. Everything relaxed from the top of the head all the way down to the fingertips, down to the toe tips. If you come across anything that still feels tight, give that muscle a squeeze. Then let that muscle release. Feeling the parts of the body that are touching the floor, being grounded into the earth element. Feeling that stability and support here. Noticing the heart rate slowing down a little. That fluid blood going through that system. Noticing the heat of the body is cooling, that fire element. The breath is slower, that air element around that chest. And the mind is clear. That element of space.
Feel free to stay here for as long as you wish. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts. From my heart to yours, Namaste.